Meredith. Real live. It's live. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I said that.
Good job, man. So I was actually in Baltimore. What was either lived or had a home or something. I think they pulled in on I should go and just.
It's not who's going to do the job,
Hello.
Who's the moderator?
That's a great question.
It's Victoria.
I'm about to say that'd be interesting.
If you told me it was Ryan.
Victoria can do a lot of stuff. Moderating the debate, I don't know.
She does. She does do it. I feel like she always wants to
I feel like she would get involved. Well, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
we're going live already. Okay.
Yeah, I started at 55.
Thank you.
Yes.
If you want to actually turn the brightness down.
It's behind the thing, isn't it? Alright, it's cool.
It's at
I'm with you.
Out of these guys, I think I'm like, from what I saw, so for this I've heard some very interesting No, she's not the greatest person. I might be wrong.
No, I mean, I don't know either. I've only met, like, when I met her, she was nice.
From what I've heard tonight, maybe it's
He's like the one like in this
Folks, if we can start to take our seats, please. Thank you very much.
yeah. You're good. If you could just scooch behind me real quick, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Well, actually, I'm going to sit right here.
Oh, okay.
As long as I'm out of your way.
No, you'll be fine then.
Okay.
Hello everyone. It's an awesome night to be a Virginian, am I right? Alright, well, if I haven't introduced myself, my name is Meredith Mintel, and I'm the newly elected chairwoman for the College Republicans here at Liberty. And we would love to extend a warm welcome to the Lynchburg community and the surrounding communities that have come out tonight. This was graciously made possible by this 6th District Republican Committee and by the hard work of the College Republicans at Liberty University. Tonight we have a few... Thank you. I have a few housekeeping announcements before we get to tonight's exciting event. First off, as you walked in, you probably had a stack of stuff on your chair. So we're doing something that's a little exciting tonight. We're doing a straw poll. So you're going to see 3 ballots on the chair, one for governor, one for lieutenant governor, and one for attorney general. When you should have a pen. There's one in every other seat. If you want, you can circle your first choice. And at the end, we're going to have 3 buckets here, one for governor, one for LG, one for AG. And I don't know if you have heard this, but college Republicans, college students in general, they're a little broke. And we are kindly asking that if you are turning this straw for tonight, we would love to ask for a $1 donation to us because, without college Republicans across the state, Republicans would have a really hard time getting elected. So we would just ask graciously to have you join us in the fight to keep Virginia red. Also, during the forum this evening, the filing deadline for Lynchburg City is coming up at 8 p.m. If you have not signed up to become a delegate tonight, we want you to be able to sign up to be a delegate and participate in this year's nominating process. So since there's no forms we have here tonight, we're asking you to pull out your smartphone if you haven't signed up and go to lynchburgrepublicanparty.com and fill out all the information that they have. There will be a little kind of tab that you can select there and fill out a delegate form. Lastly, I'd like to ask, if you're using cell phones tonight, we'd love for you to silence those so that we can give our full attention to our wonderful candidates here on stage. Again, I just want to thank you so much for taking your Monday evening to be a part of the civic engagement here in the Lynchburg community and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Taking back the governor's mansion is of utmost importance this year and will be no easy task. I would now like to welcome 6th District Republican Chair John Massoud for some opening remarks. Thank you again, and I wish all the candidates the best of luck this evening.
Dear friends and Republicans, as I'm sure you all know, something very near and dear was stolen from us.
Yes.
And there's exactly one thing we can do. Turn out in such overwhelming numbers that their greatest ability to cheat will be beaten and thrown back in their faces. I understand that many of you are supporting the candidate and some of you are undecided. I would hope that each of you would remember that whether your person wins tonight or loses tonight, or wins or loses on May 8th, that whoever we nominate is going to be 100 times better than Mr. McAuliffe or Jennifer Carroll Foy. Both of whom are extreme radical socialists who want to defund the police and literally turn us into a lawless society so that they can impose a prominent government on us. Again, I'd like to thank Meredith for our hard work and thank everybody CRs for all our hard work. And Meredith is right. If you have not signed up yet, please sign up. You still have about 45 minutes left. It's important that we show up in such numbers that we cram it down their whiny liberal throats. Thank each and every one of you. God bless everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mike Cherry. I'm running for the 66th House District. If you are around Republican circles for the last 30 years, we've affectionately just known this as Kirk's seat. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also a Liberty alum, which is why they allowed me to come out and hang out with you guys tonight and to celebrate this evening as we go through this governor's forum and you get to hear from what I think are some of the greatest gubernatorial candidates that we fielded in decades. So let's open tonight with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, God, humbly we come before you once again, thanking you for being such a wonderful and an awesome God. God, tonight we come together with one mind, one purpose, one vision, and one understanding, and it's to take back the Commonwealth of Virginia. God, I pray for these gentlemen and ladies as they rise and say they will take a stand for our conservative values, really our Virginia values. So God, I thank you for each and every one of them. I thank you for their courage. God, I pray that you continue to bless them. God, I pray that you give them wisdom. Lord, when Solomon was given anything, he chose wisdom, and you said that he chose correctly. So I pray for each of them that you would give them wisdom in how to govern and how to lead, and how to lead this Commonwealth back from the brink of socialism. God, I thank you for each and every one who's taken time out of their schedule to come into this room. This is valuable, and it's important. And I pray that you return that time to them, God, tonight. Multiply, God. God, I thank you for the college Republicans here at Liberty. I thank you for Liberty University, for the Christian university that this is, God, founded on biblical principles. And God, I pray that tonight as we go through this night, we remember, God, that you are the Most High. And we praise you in everything we do. And we give you all glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you know who I am, but I'm Delegate Wendell Walker, and you're in the best church in America. You know why? I've been attending this church since 1975, and I tell you what, I don't miss a Sunday. So I hope you'll come back and visit us on Sundays. But let me just say one other thing, too. This is one of the best parts of Central Virginia because it is so well represented that here along with me tonight is our outstanding delegate Kathy Barham. And a good friend who's been in the Senate longer than I've been alive almost, and that is Senator Steve Newton. I don't know if Senator Peake is here tonight, but folks, Lynchburg, Central Virginia is well represented, and we want to thank you for your support. So at this time, if you would stand with me, and we salute the greatest flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Delegate Walker. Tonight, we welcome 5 Republican candidates for governor. This evening's seating arrangement and speaking order for our opening statements have been chosen at random. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for opening remarks. For each question, the moderators will announce the order of candidates as we proceed. Every candidate will receive up to 2 minutes to answer every question. Additionally, candidates, what we are looking for are specifics. Lynchburg voters are looking for why they should vote for you over your colleagues. So please answer questions in detail and highlight the differences between you and your colleagues. Further, we will offer every candidate a one-minute rebuttal that they can use whenever they wish to refute an argument of your colleagues. Your name does not need to be mentioned. For opening remarks, you each have 3 minutes. Colonel De La Pena, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I want to start by recognizing my wife of 29 years, Vanessa, homeschool mom of our 5 children. She did that all the way to high school. Thank you all for allowing me to speak. I want to tell you a little bit about me. I was born in Mexico, came to this country when I was 5 years old. I grew up in a house with dirt floors and no running water. Got here legally. Started picking cotton when I was 10, had 20 different jobs before I went to college. Joined the Army through the ROTC program. I did airborne and ranger training before I went to college, or before I went into the Army. I spent 30 years in the Army, retired as a colonel. And in 2016, my wife told me, "You look awfully silly yelling at the TV. It doesn't really hear you." So she said, "If you want to get involved in running in this campaign for President Trump, then go do it." So I joined President Trump's campaign to address the needs of the Hispanic audiences, the Hispanic voters, and guess what? We were able to get 29% of the vote. And so I did 60 interviews in Spanish media, nationally and internationally. 2 weeks after the election, President Trump invited me to be part of the transition team at the Pentagon. Later, I served as his Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere Affairs, and when we were done in October, we had the best alignment of our partners politically and economically in the history of the United States. So, why am I running for governor? I'm running to protect the American dream. Virginia is the cradle of the American experiment that has created the greatest good and opportunity for the world in the history of humanity. This is where it began. That dream is now under attack. I've lived the American dream, and I am going to fight to keep it alive, because we cannot allow one-party rule in Richmond that has become the test bed of bad ideas that's now being implemented nationally to be the rule. So why am I your candidate to win? We keep putting the same type of candidates before the Democrats, and we keep losing. And the reason we keep losing is because we've not kept track of the demographic changes in Northern Virginia, which is necessary to win. I can reach those communities. I can reach the immigrant community because I am an immigrant. I can reach the Hispanic community because I can speak to them in Spanish. I can reach the Asian communities because they know what it's like to live under communism and socialism, and I fought those guys my entire military career. So I ask you to look at me, consider your vote in my favor. I want to be your next governor. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to use
just a bit of my opening statement to recognize, and I want you to join me in a warm round of applause for 4 of my personal heroes. They are the College Republican Dream Team here at Liberty University. Trevor, Carly, where's Jack? Jack is here, and Meredith. These are my personal heroes. So let's give them a round of applause. I'll tell you what. If we are going to win, we all have to train ourselves. We all have to train ourselves not to be bullied by absurdity. We have to train ourselves to only say and do what we know is true. And there are 4 people in this room, and maybe more in the back of the College Republicans, but your great College Republican team here at Liberty University is a model for us all. You are my personal heroes, Trevor, Carly, Jack, Meredith, thank you. Okay, I'm Peter Duran. I'm a candidate for governor. And you're going to hear a lot of good Republican ideas here tonight. You're going to hear all of us say very much the same things. But as you drive home tonight, I want you to ask yourself this question. Out of all the candidates, who has a vision for how we're going to win? For how we're going to lead as conservatives? Because out of all the candidates, I'm the only one who's put forward a winning conservative vision for how we're going to lead. For me, that vision is very simple. And that's why I'm in this race. Because I believe that Virginia should be the best. We should be #1 in schools, #1 in safety, #1 in jobs, and yes, if we're going to be the best, that means we are going to phase out the state income tax here in Virginia and go to 0%. And I would encourage all of my fellow Republican candidates and all Republicans in Virginia to ask themselves this question. Why is it that any Republican supports having an income tax if we know there's a better way? You're going to hear me talk about that tonight. You're also going to hear me talk about how we are going to be a constitutional commonwealth. That means that we're going to protect your Second Amendment rights. We're going to protect your religious rights, your right to freedom of association, and we're going to protect the right to life for the innocent unborn. But we're going to do more than just talk about that. If we're going to be a constitutional commonwealth as your governor, that means we're going to say no. We're going to say no to Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi in Washington, D.C. if they try and pass a law that violates your rights, that violates our Virginia Constitution. We're going to say no, we are not enforcing those laws here. We'll see in court. We'll win. All the way to the Supreme Court. Because that's the governor's job. And for too long, we've had Democrat governors who have forgotten what their job is. Their job is not to be liked by the Washington Post. Their job is to protect your rights. And as your candidate for governor, I intend to win your nomination. I intend to win your support on May 8th. But we're going to do it with a vision. That Virginia should be the best. Thank you. You're going to hear that from me a lot tonight. Thank you.
My name is Kirk Cox. I also want to give a shout out to the CRs in the modern day vernacular. But having said that, I was a 30-year school teacher. That was the love of my life. And when my kids came into the classroom, I told them they were the most important subject they'll ever take. Made all the math and science teachers mad. But the reason I did that was because it truly is the most important subject you'll take. Whether it's talking about limited government, freedom, etc., teaching those principles are absolutely timeless. Well, I went on to the citizen legislature of the House of Delegates, and then I was privileged to be both the majority leader and the speaker. So what sets Kirk Cox apart? It's this. Teddy Roosevelt said you need to be the man in the arena. And I've been the one that's fought the fight. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. The life issue. When Kathy Tron put a bill in that will make abortion until birth legal. Think about that. I came off the speaker dais, which is way up here, and about where a window is, the speaker actually has a seat. And I gave the first speech in 60 years a speaker has given. And I simply said this: as long as I have a microphone, I'll speak up for life. And then I quoted King David, my favorite Old Testament character, who said in Psalm 139, "You created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." And we defeated that bill with a 51-49 legislature. On the Second Amendment, as majority leader, I was the one that stood up to Terry McAuliffe and killed all those various bad gun bills. So why am I running for governor? Simply this. I have watched my life's work when I was speaker, $1 billion tax cut. Think about this. One of the safest states in the nation, 4th lowest violent crime rate, best state to do business. And you know the litany now. Under the Democrats, 4 major tax increases, a Green New Deal that will cost each and every one of you in this room $800. And think of what they've done to our law enforcement and how they've run the state under the pandemic. So just very quickly, I want to fight back against this worldview, this council culture that has a totally different fundamental belief than us. And I want to lead forward on so many different issues: the dignity of work, affordable college education, career in tech, making sure that we have the jobs people need. And let me end with this. You should also be considering who's the most electable, who can actually win. And I will tell you that's Kirk Cox. I come from, I'm sure this is a good thing, I come from the bluest Republican district in the state. It is 30% minority. I was able to win that with, think of this, Michael Bloomberg, Tom Steyer, Planned Parenthood, putting $1.5 million against them, and still won by 4 points. So I'm the most electable, and I really very much appreciate your vote. Thank you all for allowing us to be here tonight. It's a great opportunity for us. Thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase, and I have one question for you tonight. How many of you are ready for a new governor? I'm Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase, and I currently represent most of Chesterfield, Colonial Heights, and Amelia. Friends, I've already been elected twice in a general election, and we have a number of amazing candidates who have become some of my best friends up here on the stage. But let me tell you something. It is something when you have the press, the lobbyists, and all the political action committees putting pressure on you to vote this way or that way. And friends, I have stood the test of time. I would tell you tonight that voting records matter, and I have a 100% voting record. Whether we're talking about the life issue, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about gun rights, on all of these issues, whether we're talking about the Family Foundation's report card, friends, you can't get better than 100%. I'm honored tonight to be joined by my husband, Mike Chase, and I'm just going to ask him to stand right now. Mike is my high school sweetheart. We met when I was 15. And we've been married for 28 years. He was my boss at Chick-fil-A. And we've been married 28 years ever since. And we have 4 wonderful, amazing kids. And our youngest son, Daniel, actually attends Liberty University, so I'm going to actually make him stand. And friends, let me just tell you, that's my why. That's my why behind everything that I do. Listen, I worked in the private sector. My dream job, I actually graduated from Virginia Tech with a degree in business. I double majored in corporate finance and business management. Graduated in the top 10% of my class. Friends, I might be blonde, but I am smart. And, whenever I graduated from Virginia Tech, I had the pleasure to work in management for a number of companies which you may have heard of. Circuit Cities Bank, First North American, National Bank. I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank in Richmond. Under George Allen, I worked for the Virginia Student Assistance Authorities. Friends, I would tell you, experience matters, and I've got real-world experience in the real world. Before coming home to raise and homeschool, yes, homeschool, that's where wrinkles 1, 2, 3, and 4 came in. Homeschooling 4 kids for 8 years. And that's why education is so important to me. Listen, I've been in a league in Senate education on school choice issues. I believe we need to get rid of this indoctrination that's going on in our public schools. In the Senate of Virginia with the highest voting record. I was at CPAC, which is, and received the Conservative Achievement Award in 2019. CPAC, where President Trump was also speaker. So I hope you will look me up, Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase at chaseforva.com, and I look forward to more comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Liberty. I want to thank the Liberty College Republicans for hosting tonight. My name is Glenn Youngkin, and I'm running for governor. This is what's going on tonight. I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. I'm a political outsider. I'm a business builder. I know how to create jobs. And friends, I'm a Republican who can and will win in November. Now, we know where we are right now. We know where we are. We all have watched it happen. We've watched it happen in Washington, and we watched it happen in Virginia for the last 8 years. Elections have consequences. And the consequences that we have all seen have been crushing. Crushing. But we also feel what's going on right now. Republicans are coming together like never before to stand up and say, no, we want something different. I've traveled nearly 16,000 miles over the last 12 weeks visiting with Virginians. And what I hear over and over and over again is, Glenn, we must win. We will win. And Glenn, we're with you. Now, I'm a homegrown Virginian. I love this Commonwealth. And the Democrats have put her in the ditch. And we must get her out. And we're going to get her out together. Through addition and multiplication, not through subtraction and division. Our campaign has a huge amount of momentum right now. We had a fabulous endorsement last Friday from Middle Resolution. We have over 15,000 delegates who signed up to support us in the convention. And we launched and established the strongest fundraising record last week. But this is not about me, this is about you. So we have a chance to win. We win the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, the attorney general's race. And we can go to work putting Virginia back where she belongs as the best state in America to live and work and raise a family. We're going to reinvigorate this economy like you have never seen. We're going to turn back on the job engine. We're going to get our cost of living down by, yes, cutting taxes. And folks, Virginia is going to be the best place in America. But we're also going to stand up for our constitutional rights. Our First Amendment rights have been trampled on. We're going to stand up to big tech and get our churches open. We're going to stand up for our Second Amendment right. I'm a gun owner. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. And I know what it means to protect our right to keep and bear arms. We will not just open our schools, but we will introduce charter schools and school choice. We will make sure that our law enforcement heroes know that they will not be defunded, and their governor has their back. And finally, we will press forward with election reforms, including making sure you must show up with a photo ID to cast a ballot. Our time is now. Let's come together and get this done. Stop complaining from the sidelines, and let's change the future of our great Commonwealth and our great country. Thank you.
All right, so our first question this evening is for Senator Chase. We hear from every candidate on the stage that we can put our kids back in schools. And as students of a university, it's crucial to us that this includes in-person instruction. So Megan, a junior here at Liberty, asks, what is your specific plan to put kids back into school? And more importantly, regain lost classroom time?
Thank you. So number one, as a Virginia State Senator, I have advocated to keep our schools open. We should have never closed our schools from the beginning. And what I would say, and in fact I had Senate Bill 5020, and that bill said that if a locality demands that the school be shut down, that money that is budgeted from the state should go in the form of an education voucher and given to the parent to offset the cost of homeschooling, tutoring, or private education. And that's what I've done in the state Senate. Now, I do believe that we have learning loss, and we have a lot of issues. I think even when schools go back, opening up 5 days a week, because we have this whole thing which I've been talking about, which is indoctrination. Friends, we need to make sure that we rid our public schools of critical race theory. We need to make sure that philosophies like Project 1619, all of these, that's why I homeschooled my kids. I believe that God should be put back in our public education. Maybe we can have a I think this is a huge opportunity for the church to get involved. Because let me tell you, right now parents are being forced to educate their kids at the same time they are having to work full time. And one thing that I will do as Virginia's next governor our schools. I am actually going to set up an 800 number for parents, teachers, and students to call in to report these rogue professors and universities that are teaching, using our taxpayer money to indoctrinate our kids. No way, no how. They will report on my 1-800 number, and I will actually take the money away from that public school that does that. Whether you're elementary school, middle school, high school, we need to take back our education because we're losing our kids. And those of you, like myself, my husband and I, we have 4 wonderful, amazing kids. Our kids are age 25 to age 19, and we've got to take back our school system. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a fundamentally more important question. Back in July, you remember we had a special session, and I called for opening schools way back then. Remember what the Democrats did? They spent 45 days basically trying to defund the police. They had no interest in that whatsoever. Fast forward to January 5th. I was the first delegate to call for vaccination for teachers, and I also put forth something called the READ Fund, which would give parents help with tutoring pods, help with hardware and software rather than learning virtually. I would make sure we're open 5 days a week. Look, I taught for 30 years. And I can look at a kid in the classroom, you can tell right away when he's struggling. You can tell what the psychological problems are. I can't imagine as a teacher teaching by Zoom. You don't know your kids, you have no idea what's going on. Think about your seniors, losing your entire senior year. I had a girl that used to show up to my class was 7:20 in the morning with her hair soaking wet. She'd been in the pool since 5:30. The reason she'd been in the pool since 5:30, she won a swimming scholarship to Kentucky. Imagine if she would have lost her senior year. We never had a shot at that. Learning loss. I've had a very, very specific equation for that. Right now, I estimate probably between 3 and 6 months worth of loss in reading and math. We need intense tutoring. We need to make sure that everyone's on board. Student teachers at colleges should be helping with that tutoring. We need to allow them to opt in to summer school. That's extremely important. Let me finally say this. Critical race theory is very, very detrimental. I taught, of course, as I talked about governors. Remember this. Governors have over 200 boards and commissions they appoint. They appoint your state superintendent. They appoint your board of education. I can tell you, Kirk Cox will make sure those appointments have a curriculum that has nothing to do with things like critical race theory. I will make sure that we teach the fundamentals, which is really key. Now, I'm going to end with this. Who better to have as governor who's someone who actually has been a classroom teacher and can really solve these problems? So I think that's what I'll do as governor, and I appreciate very much the question.
Thank you. Mr. Yakin, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think the biggest challenge that we have today with our young people, high school students and college students, is reflected by the fact that there has never been any competition in our school system. And let's just be clear. Virginia's forgotten how to compete for our kids' future. Just to give you some facts, there are 8 charter schools in Virginia. North Carolina has 190. West Virginia has already passed education savings accounts. Virginia has done nothing. Friends, we have to wake up and recognize we have to go to work for our students. So step one, the day I get in and get to go to work for all of you as your governor, we're going to declare Virginia open. The schools are going to be open. Business is going to be open. Our house of worship is going to be open. And then we're going to press forward on school choice and on charter schools like never before because our children deserve it. A child's destiny should not be dictated by his or her zip code. Yeah. I think our curriculum, as has been said, is broken. Let me tell you where I start. I think we were all created in the image of God. We are all equal. Everyone. And anything that works to divide us, like critical race theory, is not consistent with that belief, and it doesn't belong in our schools. Finally, and I say this with the most immense respect, I think Kirk Cox is amazingly talented. And I want to tell everybody that if I'm fortunate enough to go work for you as your governor, I would love to have him involved in our administration, working as Secretary of Education. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A lot of what's been said, I'm going to repeat some of it. The first thing you got to do is open up the schools. There's no reason for them to be closed.
Amen.
If you look at the science, and we're always told to look at the science, look at the COVID dashboard that's put out constantly. The COVID dashboard has the number of deaths between 0 and 29 at 0 since the pandemic started. What age are the school children? Does it make any sense? And just keep going up. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to be careless in the way that we open up schools, but we need to just open up schools. We're losing compatibility. Guess who's opened up the schools already? How about China? Who created the problem? China. When we talk about slick countries that know how to use communism to their benefit, we're talking about China. And look at how many students are in the United States that are from China. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we open up the schools because we are competing in the world. And right now we've lost an entire year unnecessarily. We need to make sure that we have transportability for education. You've got to be able to allow those that want to go to religious schools that opportunity. That's why we have vouchers. That's why we have to support homeschool. We're kind of fond of homeschooling ourselves. When our kids were in Fairfax, we were told that they could not have sports in the public school system unless we got the kids into the public school system for at least 2 classes. Well, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being in homeschool, doesn't it? So I don't need that. When you talk about indoctrination, one of the things that we keep talking about is critical race theory. If you look at where it came from, it's a Marxist philosophy. Let's talk about Marxism. How many people have died under Marxism? Let me give you some quick numbers. Mao, 60 million people dead. Stalin, 20 million people dead. Pol Pot, 1.3 million, 1.5 million. If we want to put it in context, let's talk about where it all started, and it's Marxism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carly. Carly, I liked how you asked all of the candidates to be specific, because I think you hit the nail on the head. Republicans, I think we have a problem. I don't say this with any negativity or disrespect to any of our fine candidates here, but if we are going to win this November, if we are going to beat Terry McAuliffe, we have to do more than say, Terry stinks, and we don't like Governor Northam, and our schools should be reopened. We need to talk about specifics. And so when I say Virginia should be the best, that is not a campaign slogan. That is a vision for how we are going to lead. So, are we ready to be #1 in education and #1 in school choice? Because my plan that I put forward is going to make us #1. We are going to change how we fundamentally fund education in our Commonwealth. We are going to break the monopoly that teachers' unions have over our educational system. We're going to do that. We're going to do that by funding students instead of systems. We're going to do that by making sure the money follows the student. Show of hands really fast. How many parents do we have in the room here tonight? How many parents? Raise your hand. I did this in a small group. One woman said, I said, Greg, how many kids do you have? She said, I have 6 kids and I homeschool. I said, okay, well, is your life ready to change? Because we are, right now, we spend about $12,500 per student in our Commonwealth on education. That money is going to go to parents first. And so for this mom with 6 kids, every single one of her children, because money is going to follow the students first. We're not going to fund the teachers' unions, the public school systems. It's going to the students. Every single mom and parent is going to have the equivalent of $12,500, and they can take that money and they can spend it to send their child to the public school of their choice, the private school of their choice, or they can use that money to homeschool, use that for their education. Republicans, Virginians, this is a game changer when it comes to how we fund education in our Commonwealth, and we know this can be done because our neighbors over in Kentucky have just done it. They've already set the models. That is my plan. When I say specifics, when I say vision, I got you, Carl. I mean it. It's not a campaign slogan. We are going to be the best state in the country when it comes to education. We are going to #1 for school choice. Thank you.
second question starts off with Mr. Duncan. Zach, a senior majoring in business here, asks, with such a diverse group of individuals with varying backgrounds running for governor, how does your experience, whether in elected office, the private sector, or public service, benefit you while serving as our next governor and help taking back the House of Delegates here in Virginia?
Thank you, Zach, right? There we go. For that great question. That Zach happens to be in the business school, I heard, right? So that's helpful. So I have a 30-year business career. I've never run for public office before. And in fact, the company that I was fortunate enough to run for a while, I started at 26 years ago when it was very small. And it grew to be a big company over time. And I had the great fortune of running it for a while. Now, when I ran that company, it managed $230 billion of assets, about 4 times the annual budget of Virginia. And the companies that we were invested in employed about 1 million employees. That's about 10 times the number of employees for the government of Virginia. So when it comes to actually delivering results, when it comes to understanding what it means between finishing a project and offering empty promises, I know the difference. I know the difference. What I've done for my career is so differentiated from anybody else in this race, Republican or Democrat. In fact, one of my opponents, who's not here, every now and then says, because I did business in China, it must be bad. And I'm going to tell you something. Yes, I did business in China. About 5% of what Carlyle did. About 75% of what Carlyle did was actually in the United States, building companies for American jobs. But I was good at what I did in China. I know how to win. I know how to take on the communist Chinese and win. To the point where President Trump actually thanked me personally for supporting him in the U.S.-China trade deal. I want to thank Glenn Youngkin of the Carlyle Group. So actually, the challenges that face Virginia today, we are facing because we have to recognize we must deliver results, not empty promises. We must hold people accountable. We must move forward in reigniting what is the best state in America. And I think Virginia deserves the varsity, not the JV. Thank you very much.
Mr. Duran? Okay, so when it comes to background, why don't you come back with me? I'm a policy CEO, former policy CEO, and he was around a think tank in Northern Virginia for many, many years. What does that mean? Well, several years ago, Vladimir Putin decided that he was going to try and roll back our victory in the Cold War. Vladimir Putin decided that he was going to try and reassert his control over the lives of over 100 million Europeans. He was going to use pipelines and infrastructure and telecom to do it. I said no. We're going to stop Vladimir Putin, but in order to do that, we need vision. And I put out that vision, and I rallied Americans to our side, and then we went to Europe. And we rallied entire countries, presidents, ministers. And then we came back to the United States. We overcame intense political and bureaucratic opposition, mainly by Democrats, here back in Washington, D.C. And in the end, it was the United States who won. We won. It was Vladimir Putin who lost. Because if you're going to overcome incredible odds, if you're going to change people's lives for the better, then you have to put out a vision. You have to have a vision. That's why I keep saying, Virginia, we should be the best. And let's talk about exactly what that means. Because if we are going to be Terry McAuliffe this November, he's got a vision. He's already said specifically what he's going to do. He said, I'm going to hand over the keys to our educational system to the teachers' unions. He said, I'm going to allow charlatans, critical race theory charlatans, to change our educational system, and he is going to tax and spend all Virginians into the dirt in order to pay back his political cronies that he's already made promises to. Terry McAuliffe has been very specific, but his vision is wrong. And as a former policy CEO, I knew how to beat Vladimir Putin at his game, and I am here to beat Terry McAuliffe at his, but it takes a vision, and I believe, Virginia, we should be the best, and we will be. Thank you. Mr. Speaker. The governor has won for
4-year term. You better know what you're doing from day one. I would say that my 32 years of service in the legislature are key, and I'll tell you why. I've done about everything. I chaired the AC&R committee for farmers. That's absolutely key. I was the majority leader. Remember what the majority leader does? He's the one that argues every single major bill on the floor. Terry McAuliffe says the reason I'm running was because the Republican legislature blocked everything I did in my first 4 years. Well, guess who was the majority leader who did that? Repealing one gun a month. Remember when Mark Henry tried to do away with reciprocity for concealed handguns? We were the ones that defeated that. I have also chaired the higher ed subcommittee. Why that is important, we froze college tuition for the first time in 20 years. I was the one that basically created the Online Virginia Network, which gave 1.1 million adults a chance at a college education. Let's talk about school choice. It's something I believe in very much. I put one of the first school choice bills in. By the way, we have a great tuition tax credit bill. We need to enhance from 65% to 90%. But who better to get that through than someone who's been a public school teacher and as someone who's also been on the K-12 subcommittee. So in so many of these different issues, you've got to make a decision. All these terrible policies we're so mad about, who can actually affect some change? And I would say Kirk Cox is the person that can do that, which is very important. And I mentioned this. Think about the parole board and what the parole board has done. That at 8 or 9 murders, I will fire that parole board the very first day Kirk Cox is in office. And finally, when you talk about council call on college and universities, remember, the governor appoints every single board of visitors. If you know what you're doing, you can immediately turn those things around. If you've never had any of that experience, it takes you a year to figure all that out. We simply won't get the results we need. Thanks.
Well, friends, let me tell you, as a person that has a degree in business, double majoring in corporate finance and business management, and who has worked in the private sector in management, I understand the importance of good fiscal policy. I have voted in the General Assembly against every single tax increase, every single fee increase. And friends, that's very important to have that voting record, because we have a lot of amazing Republicans up here. But we also have other Republicans like Mitt Romney that are out there who I don't think is so great. We can all agree on that. So it's very important the different type of Republican you get. I'm going to use my business background, like I have in the Virginia General Assembly, to vote against fiscal policies that hurt our businesses. I introduced a bill that actually passed and was signed into law called the Regulatory Reform Bill. So before any regulation was introduced, they had to get rid of 2. I introduced a bill that would have lowered our corporate income tax from 6%, where it currently is, down to 2.5%, and eventually phase that out, so we could be competitive with other states on the East Coast. I have also I've actually achieved a 100% rating with the National Federation of Independent Businesses, which means every single vote that I have made in the Senate of Virginia has been for our small businesses. So that's very important. Records matter. Voting records matter. And I'm going to be using my experience in the private sector, in the public sector, knowing the issues and arguing them on the floor of the Senate to make sure that we have an environment. I think one of the top things we need to do as Virginia's next governor is make sure that we have proper internet service, that upload and download speed is good no matter what part of Virginia that you're in. We have parts of Southwest Virginia that still can't have a business because they don't have proper access. And I think that's going to open up our economy and create more jobs in Virginia. And we know Southwest Virginia can use some help right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many veterans do we have in the audience? What do soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen do? They lead people and they manage resources. I did that for 30 years. We get things done. We move things from point A to point B to produce a desired effect and the accomplishment of the mission. That's what we do. And I've been doing that from the time I was a lieutenant to the time I was a colonel. with increasing levels of complexity on how you get those things done. You use every tool at your disposal, you learn how to lead, you learn how to manage, you get increasingly larger budgets. Then I had the opportunity to continue on that same trajectory, working as President Donald Trump's Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. You get into the area of using diplomatic tools, you use everything under the sun, you coordinate, you cooperate, you get all of these other tools because you have to know that the military tool is that hammer in the toolbox that you only bring out when you need to get things done in a dramatic way. I know how to do all of that. I know how to manage. When I was in the last job, I used to kid with my partners in other countries, and I would say, just because I'm not a politician, and just because I'm apolitical, doesn't mean I don't understand politics. I know how to maneuver my way around politics. I know how to maneuver my way from the executive to the interagency to the intelligence community, and I know how to get things done. And the thing that we do in the military is we provide security so there can be prosperity. And that prosperity is based on reciprocity. And Donald Trump showed us about reciprocity. And that's the reason that American companies were able to put the Chinese Communist Party in its place. And that's the reason that we were able to do the things that we did with our foreign partners, because he knew how to get things done. I know how to get things done. If you're going to get things done, it's about reciprocity and it's about security, and that produces prosperity. Thank you.
Another question this evening, we're going to begin with Mr. Graham. Courtney, a nursing major in Native Virginia, says, one of the biggest issues in Virginia today is the protection of our Second Amendment rights. She wants to know what laws specifically you would like to see rolled back here in Virginia, and what protections would be put in place to protect gun owners here in Virginia.
Thank you, Carl. I think the problem isn't one specific law. I think it is the gun-grabbing agenda that Democrats have already unleashed on us in these last several years. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard Democrats talk to us about common sense gun reform, or this is a modest proposal. We're only going to take away the weapons of war. Who would be opposed to that? And Virginians, Liberty, every time we hear Democrats say these words, we know that's not true. We know when they say common sense gun control, they mean gun grabbing. We know when they say weapons of war, they mean violating your constitutional rights. They are using language to confuse and distract voters. Just this week, we've seen Democrats go one step further than ever before and say, we want to disarm the police forces. We don't even want to just defund them anymore. We want to disarm police. That's wrong. I think we have seen what the old saying tells us we should know is true. When someone tells you who they are, you should probably believe them. And over these last 4 years in Virginia, Democrats have told us exactly who they are. They're here to undermine our Second Amendment rights. You need a governor who knows that every morning when they get up in the morning, they have one job, and that is to protect your rights. To protect your rights under our Virginia and our federal Constitution. So I would support constitutional care. I would support rolling back the aggressive gun-grabbing legislation the Democrats have put in, not just over the last few years, but the last 8. And I, as I said before, will make a stand and say we are going to be a constitutional commonwealth here in Virginia. We are going to say no if the federal government pushes down rules or executive orders that violate your constitutional rights and come to take away your right to protect yourself and bear arms, because that's the governor's job. And for too long, we've had Democrat governors who didn't understand what their job was. If we're going to lead as Republicans, we are going to be the best state in the country, and we are going to be the best state in the country for protecting our sacred Second Amendment rights. Thank you.
Senator, please.
Well, I have a nickname that I've earned in the Senate of Virginia. I am called Senator Annie Oakley. And I was given that name by Senator Rick Sasslaw. And I wear that like a badge of honor, friends. And this is once again where I say voting records matter. Not all Republicans feel the same way about gun rights. And that's why I want to talk about my score. I have a lifetime 100% rating with the Virginia Citizens Defense League. I have a lifetime A rating with the NRA, but I carry. And this is my concealed carry purse right here. And I know somebody's going to ask, I'm carrying my $6 tonight, so there you go. What are you going to do about it? Listen, Terry McCauley came after our gun rights with Executive Order 50. I'm going to go after red flag laws, universal background checks. I'm going to go after the localities being able to create gun-free zones. Every time they do that, we have to take our gun and put it in our car and walk unprotected. And now the General Assembly has just voted that on the Capitol, we have to disarm ourselves. I'm going to reverse all of that. If I have to use every tool in my toolbox as a governor, from executive orders on down, I will set a Guinness Book of World Records for that. I filed to take us back to the constitutional plumb line, and then Senator Newman and I had a bill that we patroned that would limit the governor's powers to 30 days. No more emergency orders after the 30 days. But I think it's very important to know that I was one of 2 legislators asked to speak at the annual VCDL rally back on January 2020. And it was from them that I was recruited to run for governor over a year ago, back in February, on President's Day, whenever I announced over a year ago that I would seek the Republican nomination for governor in a primary. So, you know where I stand on gun rights. I'm the Annie Oakley of the Senate, and I don't have to support.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Why is the Second Amendment the Second Amendment? We all know why. It's the amendment that protects all of the other amendments. And if you look at how that's applied throughout the world, the first thing that socialists do is what? Take away your guns, take away your weapons. I was in Venezuela. I tracked Chavez before he was president. I was there at his election, and I tracked him afterwards. Guess what he did? He took away the guns. As a matter of fact, I used to go out every Friday, and a buddy of mine would drag out all these guns, because they had a big warehouse at the Army, and I got a chance to burn up all kinds of ammo. And it was a blast. That warehouse where that ammo was kept and all of those guns got a lot bigger when Chavez came into office. That's what you do in despotic regimes, is you want to disarm the population. That's the reason that we have the Second Amendment. I've explained this to partners throughout the world. They understand what it is, and they understand why you have to protect that. And it is the Second Amendment. That means that it's a national amendment. And when you have counties arbitrarily deciding that they want to create their own laws that are contradictory to the Second Amendment, they're wrong, and we need to stand against it. And as governor, I will do that. So what we need to do is make sure that those rights are protected, because those are what are enshrined within our Constitution. If you look at what's happened recently, you've got our governor, or our 2 senators, Kane and Warner. What are they doing now? What do they propose? They're now talking about extending the 1 gun per month law to the national level. What you're seeing is that Virginia has become the test bed of bad ideas, that our one-party rule is now extending to the national level. So we've got to stop that. The Second Amendment is sacrosanct. We need to make sure that we protect it. So thank you very much.
You know, it's really interesting. When you look at your history of the Second Amendment, remember there are only 10 Bill of Rights. You might not know this. Actually, there were certain founding fathers that argued against the Bill of Rights. And they basically said you shouldn't wish your rights. One of the things that James Madison felt so strongly about when he introduced them was that those 10 key fundamental rights had to be listed. Because if they're not, as Sergio said, it leads to tyranny first. And so I don't think there's probably a more fundamental right than obviously the Second Amendment. And not only is it a tyranny question, but obviously our hunting and fishing traditions. So once again, let's sort of go back to history a little bit. I actually was around, believe it or not, when Governor Wilder put in one gun law. If you remember, we worked for years and years and years to repeal that. As a matter of fact, when Governor McAuliffe came in, and I'm going to mention this twice today, once again, it's the difference being in a leadership position. You have to stand up and actually argue on the floor. And we beat that back. And so obviously that's one, whether it be red flag laws, I think you're going to see pretty much universal agreement out here. That what the Democrats have passed has to be repealed. But once again, can you get that done? Can you put the coalitions together to make sure those fundamental rights get done? And I'll give you probably an example of where the Democrats are. Mark Levine put a bill in this year that was referenced. It would basically ban any kind of concealed carry anywhere near the Capitol. That bill was so silly that if you were driving down a car in Broad Street the way that original bill was designed, you would actually be in violation of the law. If you were a female delegate walking back to a garage, you could not only not own a gun, the original bill said you couldn't own a stun weapon or a stroke flashlight. And so we go argue these issues. Can you imagine going into suburbia? You can make great arguments. We need to be proud of this. We need to tell people why we support that. If we do it that way, we can repeal these laws and return that fundamental right that we all love and so near and dear to our hearts.
So as I said earlier, I'm a gun owner, a lifetime member of the NRA, and I understand what it means to protect our right to keep and bear arms. And as governor, I will defend that right with every legal capacity that I have. Because guess what? I so fundamentally disagree with Joe Biden. These amendments are absolute. And you can't take a veto. And yes, I agree with all of my colleagues up here. But the key is, folks, we must win. We can complain from the sidelines all we want. What the Republican Party has done for the last 12 years is figured out how to lose. We are running a different kind of campaign. We're running a campaign to win. Not to say we tried hard, but to win. And oh, by the way, we started Virginia Wins to fund down-ballot races so that I will not have a governor without a legislative majority in the House of Delegates, because we're going to win that back. We can't talk about all the things we want to do unless we're in a position to do them. And this is our moment. This is why we're funding sheriff's races, supervisory board races, school board races, city council races, delegate races. Because it will not be a lonely victory for me in November. It will not. We're going to bring a whole crop of conservative Republicans into these most important seats. And we're going to go on offense, friends. Not sit around on defense. And that's what I'm going to do for you as your next governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. This next question will start with Mr. Duran. The Virginia Parole Board has been a hot topic of debate during the Northam administration. Just here in Lynchburg, a story broke this week of the devastating story of Judy Smith and her interactions with her husband's killer and the unresponsive parole board. What will you do specifically as Virginia's next governor to solve the issues of Virginia's parole board? Excuse me. This question is going to start with Speaker Cox.
Well, let's start now. We have the parole board that we have. Remember that Governor McDonald's head of the parole board got fired by Terry McAuliffe. A lot of us forget that. With this charge, to speed up parole as quickly as possible. So Adrienne Bennett becomes head of the parole board. And she has one mission. And that is to basically let people out as quickly as she can. Remember, under statute and law, you have to notify victims and victim family. You have to notify the Commonwealth's attorney. They didn't do any of that. And I give you several key examples, but here's the best one. There have been about 8 or 9 murders who've been let out. The worst one was Vincent Martin. Vincent Martin committed a robbery, went to prison for that, gets out, Rob's to 7-Eleven early one morning. He's driving the wrong way on a one-way street. He stopped by a 23-year-old police officer, Michael O'Connor. He asked him to get out of the car. But he has no idea that he's committed a robbery. He just knows he's driving the wrong way on a one-way street. He gets out of the car. He shoots Officer O'Connor once, stands over top of him. He shoots him 3 times executioner style and kills him. This is not some administrative glitch. This is deliberate. And now we hear in recent news reports, I hope you saw, where the governor's office calls in the Office of Inspector General and basically reads them the riot act about the way the investigation has been handled. And what's Governor Northam's reaction? To spend $250,000 of your taxpayers' money to do what? To investigate the Office of Inspector General. I will fire the parole board.
Thank you. So, the governor has the responsibility to assign board members and control regulations and also control the budget. Those are significant powers because when we first take over, it's going to take a while before you get the General Assembly back to red. So the first thing we've got to do is start investigating those people that have committed these type of malfeasance that are punishable under law. There needs to be an investigation of that parole board. That parole board broke the law, and that parole board needs to be held accountable because nobody is above the law. Those parole boards are there for a reason. And the way that the parole boards have been run is incredibly irresponsible, and we've got to change that. If we're going to be a country of rule of law, you've got to be able to have the ability to enforce the law. And criminals are now being given greater rights than the police. And that is not the trajectory that we need to be on. Anytime you allow that to happen, you're going to have a breakdown in the rule of law. And what we're seeing right now is when you have the legal system breakdown, you're going to have greater levels of insecurity within neighborhoods. And if we're going to be a free Virginia, we need to be looking at how do you create conditions of stable families, meaningful work, and safe neighborhoods. The safe neighborhoods piece is something that we have to really work on, and it's intentionally being torn apart. It's intentionally being torn apart so that we can be at each other, against each other, and not being able to protect those things that we hold near and dear to our hearts. So we need to make sure that, as a governor, I will make sure that you've got the appropriate people with the appropriate training to be able to conduct their responsibilities in these boards and in the appropriate fashion, and not one that does something to break down the rule of law. So thank you very much.
So when this parole board scandal broke, I immediately called for federal investigation. Why? Because I knew that this governor and his friends would do nothing about it. So Kirk described what happened. Let me describe the process of cover-up. So we first have a parole board that circumvents the laws and is caught by the Inspector General. We have a whistleblower who actually is relieved of their duties for fulfilling what is an obligation of people to hold people to a higher standard. Then the Inspector General is in fact intimidated by our government. And then there is no real investigation. This is why I called for a federal investigation, because we knew we were going to get nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing. And I will say that they're quick to investigate every other policing issue. Now, this is why, as a political outsider with no baggage, no issues, no promises, no relationships, full ability to do what's right, I am so looking forward to serving all of you as your governor and absolutely bringing legal charges against this parole board for what they have done, And then I'm so looking forward to replacing the entire parole board with victims, with families, with people who understand exactly what George Allen understood when he appointed the original parole board here. People who have had their lives devastated by these criminals. Friends, we have a real problem. Terry McAuliffe absolutely appointed this person, Adrian Bennett, and Ralph Northam watched this happen. They're going to wear this the entire election season. Thank you.
Well, I agree with many of the comments that have been made so far, but I would go so far as a Virginia state senator saying we need to recall Adrian Bennett because she's been appointed as a judge and she should not be able to serve as a judge. And I think, I do agree, we do need to fire the parole board, but I do believe we also need a federal investigation. I would also reinstate the whistleblower. I think she should be rewarded for having the courage to step forward and actually do the right thing. I do agree that we need to put victims on the parole board. And listen, I have a close friend of mine from church where her brother was murdered. And every year I would call the chairman of the parole board every year to make sure that he stayed in jail. Murdered her brother in cold blood. Shot him multiple times in the back. Because he said he would be okay with dating someone of the opposite race. He was shot right there. Every year, I called for my friend and other victims who had loved ones who had been shot and killed. This year was very different. Under the guise of COVID, the liberal trifecta has given more favor to criminals than they have to law-abiding citizens. Friends, I will be a law and order governor. And I understand the issues because I've had to debate them on the floor of the Senate for 6 years. And that's important to have a governor who understands the issues. We don't just have the parole board, but we need to fully fund our law enforcement. We have law enforcement all over. There's a huge shortage. Pay disparity. Wage compression. We need to boost the morale of our law enforcement, and we need to include Department of Corrections, because many times they don't even have the benefits they need. We need to give our sheriffs the proper raise. Many of them are having to go on government assistance because they can't even afford to make a decent living, and it's an embarrassment. So that's where I stand on the parole board and law enforcement. Thank you.
All right, so we've heard some really good ideas, and I support them. Absolutely, we have to fire the parole board. I've said since the very beginning of my campaign, my philosophy, if we're going to be the best state in the country, is that if you break the law, you should face the law. And that applies to every citizen, every member of law enforcement, and particularly every member of our parole board. But let's take one step back, and let's remember that old saying, I mentioned it earlier, when someone tells you who they are, you should probably believe them. Because what we saw from the emails that were released in the internal correspondence of this parole board was a very troubling thing. And it showed what Democrats think of you. Because the saying in the email said, wave that magic wand and set them free. Set them free was referring to violent criminals, murderers who had been convicted, who had due process, and in one case, Martin, he was serving a lifetime, he was sentenced to a lifetime in prison, and now he's out. And he killed a cop. And for me, when I say that we need to stand with the men and women in blue, they should know that they've got our back, they should have a governor who has theirs. It's not a slogan for me. Who's family? Right now, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, my brother-in-law, he's a cop. We're all praying for him, what could happen over the next week or two. Every time we see the news, I worry for my brother-in-law. But just not him. My grandfather was a cop. My grandmother was a cop. She was one of the very first female police officers in Cleveland, Ohio. Then we I want to think of Vincent Martin. Those final moments before he executed a law enforcement officer who was defending Virginia and keeping us safe. I understand we say, if you break the law, you'll face the law. Every criminal who breaks our laws will face the law. Every member of our parole board who breaks the law, under my administration, they will face the law. Because like I said, who's got our back? They should have a governor who's got theirs. Thank you.
All right, very quickly now, each candidate will only have 30 seconds for this last question. So starting with you, Colonel, the date is January 8th, 2022. You're being sworn in as governor. What is your #1 priority for state office?
The first priority is that we need to restore voter integrity, electoral integrity, because it's been destroyed. We're going to have to put in place the mechanisms to make sure that we do not have another election like we just had. And before we have that election, we need to get as many people mobilized so that we have the appropriate level of election officials so that we can get to that point on January 8th. We have got to get that fixed because that is the #1 priority for all of us. So every one of us here needs your help. Thank you very much.
The first thing that I would do is completely eliminate all of the current executive orders. That would allow us to make your face great again, get rid of these masks. You would not have the capacity limitations that you would have right now. That would definitely help our businesses. It would reopen our schools just by doing that one thing. It will totally kickstart our economy in Virginia and get things rolling again. And the very next thing I would do is reverse all of these restrictions on our gun rights. You can count on that. Thank you.
All right, Speaker Cox.
Well, the very first thing the governor does is send down budget amendments. You might not know that. And so the very first thing I would do was send down budget amendments like I have to cut regulations by 20% in every state agency. The second thing I would do would make sure there'd be language in the budget to open all schools. And the third thing I would do would make sure that Virginia is the best state, not only to own a business, but the best state to live and work. And so I think those are essential. And finally this, remember, the governors can appoint, I've said this over and over, so many boards and commissions, so you see Kirk Cox with conservatives in every one of those positions.
Mr. Duran?
I'm a little different. First thing I'm going to do is thank my wife and kiss her for being so gracious and supporting me on this campaign. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to go to church. We're going to say a prayer of Thanksgiving. A prayer of Thanksgiving to every one of you and everyone in Virginia who I know, I've been asking for it all the time, who's been praying for us and our family and me on this campaign. And then we are going to roll back Governor Northam's top-down orders on COVID. We are going to reopen our economy. And then I'm going to put the message out to every single member of our government. You have one mission in life, and that is to make Virginia #1. In everything you do, we're going to #1 because Virginia should be the best. That's my vision. That's how we're going to lead. And everyone from the top of the boards and administrations all the way down to the interns are going to know Virginia should be the best. Thank you.
So, in the world I came from, you can't focus on one thing. It's like, which child do you love most? I have 4, I love them all. Yes, Grant, who's here, I love them all. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is, yes, stop and pray. That's what we're going to do. We're going to ask for help. Just like I start every day. I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. And then we're going to get moving. And we're going to get moving on a full agenda. Not a single thing, but a full agenda. Virginia's open. We're going to protect our Constitution. We're going to stand up for students. We're going to make sure law enforcement knows we have their back. And we're going to start reforming our election process. We're going to move on all fronts because we must. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now move to closing remarks. Every candidate will receive 1 minute, and we'll go in reverse order of opening remarks. So, Mr. Youngkin, you have the floor once again.
I first want to thank all of you for coming tonight. There's lots of places you could be on a Monday night, and so thank you, and Liberty College Republicans, thank you. You guys are awesome. So, elections have consequences. This is the decision we're all going to make. Who are you going to vote for? That's the decision. We can do all kinds of great things on paper, but in order to put them in place, we must win. I am not a career politician. I'm an outsider. I am the only outsider. I'm taking a completely different approach to this. We have mapped out a path to victory which is so different than any other Republican candidate has ever run. We're going to go toe-to-toe with Terry McAuliffe. We're going to fund this campaign like no Republican ever has. We're already running coalitions into the minority community. We're already rallying the veterans. We're already talking to women. We are already building to win in November. Friends, it's different, but it's the winning formula. I ask you to join me and win in November. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will join General Flynn, General Michael Flynn, who endorsed me this past week. And I'm looking forward to go meeting with President Trump this coming weekend. I am known as Trump and heel in the General Assembly. Why? Because I have a backbone of steel. I have been censured twice, one of only 2 senators in the entire General Assembly, because I simply said this: the 2020 presidential election was stolen. I attended the January 6th rally and stood with our president. I said, I don't do COVID. I hold our legislators accountable for their bad votes. Friends, I have a backbone of steel. And that's why General Flynn said I'm backing you, because you have withstood the pressure. When I told them I didn't do COVID, they put me in a plexiglass box on the floor of the Senate because I refused to wear a mask. The Senate of Virginia stripped me of all my committee assignments and put me over in the corner because I refused to sit under failed leadership. And friends, we need a political outsider who knows the General Assembly, understands how it works, and will be a governor for the people. Thank you.
Well, let me also thank the Liberty CRs. I'm a little bit different tack. I think you do need the experience. I was in 32 years for a part-time legislature. I taught the entire time. You need proven electability. You would never in a baseball game or basketball pick someone who's never played. You would never pick someone to run your business who's never been in that business. You need to pick someone in his first election in the biggest upset in Virginia history. In his last election, he was speaker, when everyone was after him, in a 30% minority district drawn by federal judges, wins by 4%. Think about that. So you need to pick the most electable. We cannot afford one-party Democrat control any longer. The stakes are simply too high. So to me, your decision should be on who's actually done it, who's been creative in the political arena, who can get votes in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. I don't think there's anyone on the stage that's done that more than I have. And I will say that Governor Allen, Governor McDonald, over 50 members of the House of Delegates past and present. And I think that shows you basically what my record is. So I'd very much love to have your support. Thank you very much.
Okay, Republicans, liberty you. You have one vote on May 8th. That's the only vote that matters. And remember, as you fill out that dance card, you get to choose who you're going to support. You get your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice, kind of like Jane Austen going to the ball and filling out her dance card. So I'm here to ask you tonight. I want to be your first choice. I want you to go home tonight as you're driving home, talking to your spouse. I want you to consider for yourselves who has put forward a vision, a winning vision that isn't just a bumper sticker slogan. It's just not a rehashed, microwave, warmed up idea that you've heard before. It is a real vision backed by big ideas that matter to Virginians. For me, as I said at the very beginning, I believe that Virginia should be the best. And if you're going to beat Terry McAuliffe, we need to show a clear and compelling alternative to what Democrats are offering. They want to move Virginia left, We need to move Virginia forward, and here's how we're gonna win. Because, yeah, I know there's a lot of Democrats who like to pay taxes, and I can't help them. But I know there's a lot of other independents and Democrats here in Virginia, and we can all agree on one thing. We like money. And if we all like money, then we should all keep more of our money, and that's why if we're gonna do the best, we're gonna phase out the state income tax and go to 0%. This is my winning vision for how we're gonna win. Virginians, I'm Peter Duran, and I look forward to rallying with you on May 18th. Thank you very much for being here.
So thank you very much. Are we ready for a Republican governor? We have got to answer this question. We have to pick someone who can win. We keep picking the same type of candidate, and what do? We keep losing. We keep losing because we've not kept track of the demographic changes in Virginia. Northern Virginia is 20% Hispanic and it's 17% Asian. We have to reach out to those immigrant communities. I am that Hispanic community. I can reach to them in Spanish. I can reach to them with somebody who understands their culture. I can reach out to those Asian communities because I know what it is to have lived in communist regimes. My fellow candidates, we all believe in the same things, but they cannot do it. I can do it. We have got to expand our base. We keep losing because Northern Virginia is not going to go along with us. We've got to get a wider base, and I want to be your next governor because I can do it, because I can reach out to those communities. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Joshua Jones. I'm the new first vice chair at Liberty University. First off, just a couple of housekeeping items. Thank you all for coming tonight. As you already know, there's a lot you can be doing on Monday nights, so thank you for being here. And thank you to all our candidates if you're joining and giving them a round of applause. A couple of housekeeping items quickly. If you entered the giveaway with Amanda, I have the winners here. I'll read those off quickly. Kathy Seals, Patrick Jamison, Amy Whitaker, Chris Quigg, and CJ Jordan. So if you can see Amber in the back there, she'll help you out. If I could ask all the candidates to remain on stage and all of our elected officials to join them for a quick photo. Also, the straw poll, we're going to set the boxes up here. If you have not yet submitted those, you can do so. Go ahead and assigned to governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And then also, if you have